Hello, and welcome back to Clea's World. This is Clea, and today I like to focus on how children fare when a narcissistic relationship comes to an end. I will give you an example so that we can relate to this example and I can explain a little bit about what happens behind the scenes. So, I have a friend. She was married to a narcissist, to an overt narcissist who had done a lot of damage when it comes to her personality and also the children's personalities. And once she finally decided to move forward and to move on without him, she took the children with her. The children chose to be with her because they're teenagers, so they can choose. At the same time, they it's two girls, and they deal with the situation completely differently. So there are two ways mainly to deal for children to deal with these situations. One is to be very hurt and therefore decide that the person causing the problem is a bad person and they don't want to see this person anymore. So in this particular friend's case, one of her children, the younger daughter, decided that her dad is a bad person and she's so hurt she wants nothing to do with him. And the other daughter, who's just a little bit older and she actually just started college, she is instead very transactional about this. So her relationship with her dad is very transactional, which doesn't mean she's not hurt, but it does mean that she's taken stock of the situation and said, fine, he's still my dad. What can I get out of this? What will since he's, of course, very bent on looking like the good guy, how can I use him? How can I use this to my advantage? So, for example, she gets a lot of stuff out of him, or if he wants her to do something, she asks for stuff back. Now, as a parent, as the mother of these two children, in particular my friend, she of course wants to stay out of this relationship. She's threading very carefully because she doesn't want to hurt her children further, and also most definitely she does not want to separate them from their dad. The problem is that sometimes by doing this, we're leaving our children, who are children, we must remember this, to deal with things that are way above their head. We are afraid, of course, of telling our children what to do in a situation such as this. But the fact is that we can offer support in them making their own decisions. So, of course, one thing that I would definitely recommend is to have them speak with a professional, get some guidance, some counseling, because it's very hard for children to open up. There's just so much going on in their world as it is at a certain age that this just adds a lot of trauma. The second problem is that even, for example, for the first child who basically has decided to cut off the relations with her dad, is that it's not a neutral decision to tell yourself that your dad is not a good person. It's a decision that has a lot of ramifications for the simple reason that she's very aware that half of her DNA comes from this man. And it's very easy for children to start believing that because a parent is not very nice and quote unquote they're bad, that the children are also bad. Because of course my father is not that nice, it means I cannot be that nice. This is very dangerous because children don't have the ability to distinguish between a person being a certain way and a person doing certain things. Of course, narcissists have issues, but a lot of us also have issues. The point is, there is a difference between who you are and what you do. And children don't really have the ability to discern what is what, because we all make mistakes. We all do things that are not for the highest and greatest good of all. It does not necessarily make us bad people. There are also different types of narcissists and people that do different things. So unless this is a physically unsafe situation, there might really be no reason to separate, for this child to separate herself from her dad. And even then, there is a need for this child, of course, to have some boundaries and, of course, to take time to think about what's happened, feel into what's happened, see how she's feeling. But the point I'm trying to make here, if you happen to be the parent, the victim parent of with children that make these decisions, please don't assume, first of all, don't assume that the person who's being transactional about everything is okay, because it is impossible to be okay after something like this has happened. Nobody's okay. Everybody will have to go through a healing period. And secondly, let's not assume that the person who doesn't want anything to do with a parent is also okay beyond just the pain itself of what's happened, or because they have decided that to cut off this person. It might not necessarily be a good thing just because it works better for us, or because, you know, this way this person cannot hurt him anymore. Now, again, we're not talking about physical issues here. We definitely do not want to risk any further physical abuse if that's been the case. But even emotionally, I'm not calling for anybody allowing any type of abuse. What I'm trying to say is it is a good idea. It is wise to investigate with the help of a counselor what's actually going on in the mind of the children. The children are not escaped from something like this. They have, even though the abuse may have been mostly directed at us as spouses, they have witnessed a lot of trauma, and they are so malleable at a certain age that they might not know. They might not be able to distinguish between different things. They don't have the same ability to detach themselves. They take everything very much at face value and they feel it very deeply. So it is important for them to build some boundaries. It is important for them to perhaps have some therapy, and for them to have the time to be on their own, perhaps. Also, why it's so difficult when the partner who's been left, the partner who doesn't have the children, is, you know, would be ideal for them to give the children time. Of course, this doesn't happen in reality, because normally these narcissists, all they think about is themselves. And also they have to save face, so they use the children to make it look like everything is okay and the other partner exaggerated. Never a healthy situation. But the key here is for the parent who does want to protect them to not feel so susceptible, so sensitive about leaving them to make their own decisions without offering any guidance and support. Sometimes it is okay for a parent to say, listen, I know you want all of this to be okay, but perhaps we just need to take some time where you don't make a decision yet, or how you're going to be. Or if you do decide, for example, you are going to be transactional about this, how does that make you feel? Let's revisit. Let's not just assume that things are okay. So the key, as always, is listening. And of course, love is the solution to everything. Sometimes the problem is that we love so much that we want to honor, and it's wonderful to honor the freedom of these children, but these children may be so overwhelmed. They really may be doing something that's not in their best interest. So again, I definitely recommend seeing some kind of specialist counselor, anybody that you trust and who has great references, because you always want to check references. Doesn't matter what degrees or certifications a person has. What matters is results. And the fact that they do come from love is not about, you know, just making a quick buck off of people. And also, of course, it's important to apologize, to give space, and but also to embrace these children, and to let them know that stuff happens, and that again doesn't make a person bad, or a person doesn't mean that a person will never change, and we just have to go with the flow and learn what works for us. In other words, there is no one solution fits all. And even though these two girls, for example, might look like they've decided on solutions that are completely the opposite, they might be coming exactly from the same place, which is a place of hurt. And so it doesn't mean that one is healthier than the other, needs more or less help than the other. So I hope, I've told my friend, I said, you must protect them, which doesn't mean separate them from the father if that's not what they want. But protect them also means that you must stand up for them where they might not have the power, the will, and the ability to say, this is what I need right now. So it's very hard to see your children going through these situations. I understand, even harder than going through it yourself in many instances, but I do hope that this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.